Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as the Blended podcast, and now our nonprofit called the Blended Pledge as well. We always love hearing from our friends at Fastenal, and that music really gets us going. But first, we also have another sponsor that we want to talk about. Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. So, how are you all today? It looks like we might be having some challenges with my personal LinkedIn page, but we will see how it goes. So, we're hopefully going to see you all here. Now, let's talk about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. And so, we've got a brand new episode for you with Dan from WorkStep. And actually, he's going to be here today. So we can ask him all sorts of questions about his episode. We can talk about his episode and what you can expect from it. They're doing some amazing things in talent. And I can't wait for you guys to check out this episode because they are really reinventing the game, not only for employees, but also for employers as well. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later on in this episode, but you can listen to it wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. Also over at letstalksupplychain.com. It's episode 256. I also want to say hi to some of our brand new listeners. We are actually syndicating this episode on a radio show later on today, and I want to give a big shout out to them and a big hi and say welcome to Thoughts and Coffee, and thanks for joining us. So we also want to talk about some of the upcoming events that we've got going on. So obviously Thoughts and Coffee. We've got Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson. That happens the first Friday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern. And if you missed any episodes, you can go to Let's Talk Supply Chain on YouTube, and we've got some playlists for any of the episodes that you have missed. We've also got action items with DC. She went live last week, and you don't want to miss that episode. It was really, really, really great. We're also having that episode coming up on the podcast too. So we're going to do an audio version of that episode. No Bullshipping with Hope White live every fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. First things first. So Rob Garrison is hosting a brand new live show this afternoon at 12 p.m. Eastern. So that's right. We're going live twice today. So right now, and then we're going to go live at 12 p.m. Rob is going to be hosting another great show talking about supply chain, talking about the first mile as well. And then we've got Coming in Hot with Abby Baird. I should probably let you know, I'm going to be at a couple of different events. So next week, I'm going to be at the Canadian Health Food Association conference in Vancouver. I actually have a panel going on next Friday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. I got to remember where I am in the world for next week. And it's going to be a great discussion because we're going to be talking about the new normal of the food supply chain. So if you're out in Vancouver, part of the Canadian Health Food Association, come and join us for that. I'm also going to be part of the Sustainability Summit that's coming up, I think, in about a week or two. And I'm also going to be moderating a couple of panels in Miami on April 26th at an invite-only event, which I'm super, super excited about. Next, what do we have to talk about? Ooh, we just got a Globie Award. So these Globie Awards, we actually won this back in October, and I was waiting for us to actually get the award so we could show it to you. But unfortunately, hashtag supply chain issues, and for some reason, we just could not get the award to us. So we announced this just the other day. We won a Globie Award for being the first podcast to ever franchise. And of course, you guys know we've got Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pack with Jonathan Kempe. If you're not following that page, go and follow it. But we did win this award, and we're super, super excited about that. And then remember, you want to be engaging with our posts. This is Demo from Panama with his Let's Talk Supply Chain mug and his fabulous pink shirt. So engage with us because you could be a follower of the month and win our Let's Talk Supply Chain mug. And then you could get our free supply chain dictionary over at Let's Talk Supply Chain on Instagram. Just message us or DM us Talk1 and you can get our free supply chain dictionary. What else have we got going on? Oh, I released my monthly hustle newsletter on LinkedIn yesterday, talking about how Earth Day is around the corner and kind of your first steps to a sustainability plan. So go and check that out. We've had some really great feedback on that as well. And then we've got a bit of a blended update. So we're working on our first exclusive corporate sponsorship, which means we are going to be able to provide more grants in Q2 than we ever thought possible. And we're super excited about that. So our applications are going to be open at the end of April. So if you know any diverse voices that have been given a speaking engagement or an opportunity to speak at an event, but need some help with travel, let them know because applications are going to be open at the end of the month and we're going to be able to give away at least 3 grants over the next month or so, which we're super, super excited about. All right, well, I have spoken way too much and it's now time to bring up our guest for today. So hello, Dan. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here bright and early.
I know it's a little early for you, right? You're on the West Coast?
Yeah, but we're a distributed company, so early days are a norm here.
Yeah, that's kind of the norm for supply chainers, right? It's a global industry and we just do what we've got to do. So why don't you introduce yourself for everybody in the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. My name's Dan Johnston. I'm the co-founder and CEO at WorkStep. What we do at WorkStep is we build software solutions that help large companies better hire and critically retain their frontline workforce across the supply chain.
Awesome. I love that. And they can learn more about your company and what you do on the newest episode of Let's Talk Supply Chain, which I'm super excited about because the stories that you tell on that particular episode are just mind blowing, especially in a time where we're talking about the the Great Resignation. And employers are really looking for new ways to hire, find talent, retain talent. And that's what we're going to be talking about today as well. So super excited to dive into a little bit more of that. And so we'll get into some of that when we get into our articles as well. So the first thing that we're going to talk about actually is our poll of the week. So I don't know if you guys in the audience participated in this poll. But last week we asked you, how much are you paying for a container from Asia to North America? Now, this was a little bit broad, and we did get some kickback in the comments saying, well, what size is it? Depends on the trade lane and all this kind of stuff. But we just wanted to get an overview of what everybody was kind of seeing in the market, because we know around this time last year, there was a lot of people paying upwards of $30,000 for a container. So we got 585 votes, which is amazing. And I just want to thank the community for participating in that and letting us know what you're paying. So 51% of you said less than $20,000. Now that is obviously less than what we were kind of seeing at this time last year, but it's still about 3 or 4 times more than what we were seeing pre-COVID levels. So it's interesting to see that, things are still on that trend of keeping the pricing sort of at that 3 to 4 times level. And we're hearing more and more about that when we're talking about inflation as well. So 21% of you said less than 30,000. So some people are still paying upwards of $30,000. 19% of you said less than $10,000, and 10% of you said more than $40,000. I would assume that I maybe that's got, some sort of special pricing on that, but that's a lot of money. What did you think about this when you saw this, Dan? I know this is not your area of expertise, but I know you've got to be feeling it in the wallet because we're all kind of feeling it with the inflation going on right now.
Yeah, I think my vantage point here really, Sarah, is as a consumer. And while it's good to see these prices coming down slightly, as you mentioned, I don't think we're going to be seeing the savings at the register anytime soon. These are still well above historical norms, and there
Yeah.
are cost pressures at many other parts of the supply chain. They're going to keep prices high for the end consumer for the time being. So
Yeah.
a little bit of relief here
But not a
for
lot.
North America, but a long way to go.
Well, and we're seeing so many disruptions still, right? I mean, Shanghai closed down, I think, a week ago, and I still don't think they're back up and running. So we haven't had 100% manufacturing in China for over 2 years, and if these disruptions keep on happening, I mean, there's got to be some sort of relief for supply chains in general. But even with the costs, I mean, there's so many different things within supply chain that we need a relief on. One of them is the cost, but you're right. Once the pricing goes down, it still takes a long time for us to see that as a consumer in the stores as well. So thank you for that. And thanks for everybody who participated on the poll of the week. I'm excited to see what we're going to ask you tomorrow. I need to see what AJ has up his sleeve. I forgot to ask him before we went on air. So then I also wanted to talk about this particular post that we posted on Friday. We had over 3,000 reactions to this. So there are a lot of people that feel a lot of different things when they see this picture. We had 100 comments and 244 shares on this one. And what it's showing is where everybody is seeing the stress. And what it does is it's a reminder about mental health. And especially as a supply chain professional, with all of these disruptions, like we just spoke about with the costs, and all the pressures that are coming from within the company, we need to take care of our people, whether it's a top down approach and checking in, whether it's a bottom up approach, checking in as well. We all need to give each other a little bit of grace because there's a lot of stress going on in supply chain right now. And as you can see, a lot of people are really resonating with this particular post. So, Dan, when you saw this, what did you think? I mean, you're dealing with companies that are, looking for frontline workers in warehousing and things like that. There's so many pressures in the different parts of the supply chain right now.
Yeah, first of all, Sarah, taking care of the people in the supply chain is really all we think about at WorkStep every day when we get up. And that last graphic, which I think is what really resonated with folks in terms of trying to deliver cost savings in this environment, really harkens back to what we just talked about, which is you have the cost of shipping going up, you have the cost of trucking going up, you have the cost of raw materials going up, you have the cost of labor going up. Your workforce is turning over more quickly than they ever have, and it's costing you more than it ever has to replace them. Where do these supply chain leaders find those cost savings to continue to deliver affordable price to the end consumer? Our point of view is that the best way to do that is to work on improving your workforce satisfaction and retention, and to decrease the need to source new hires into your supply chain as a result of that improved workforce retention. But yes, these supply chain leaders are feeling it from all angles right now, and addressing that from a wellness perspective and from a de-stressing perspective is incredibly important.
Yeah, and I think, we're looking for that kind of support from the company that we're working with. And so wellness programs are very, very important. And I know Rhonda, I don't know if Rhonda is here today, but she works for a company within their wellness program. And she speaks about this on podcasts and live shows about how important it is to support our workers from a mental health standpoint and to provide the resources. Because sometimes it's not easy for us on our own to go and find those resources, maybe pay for those resources. And it's really important right now. So there's a variety of different ways that we can support not only ourselves, each other, and the organization have support for the people that are working with them. Danielle commented and says, it's crazy how accurate this is. Elaine says, no doubt, never seen this kind of scenario. And Anne says, indeed, but for each pain point, there is a solution. And that just goes to the resilience of supply chain professionals because we are innate problem solvers. And the fact that she says, but for each pain point, there is a solution. I love that kind of mindset, right? I love it when people are turning that negative into a positive. But let's get to our first article of the day. So, this one is very interesting, and I want to start the talent conversation around what to look for and how to find talent. Now, in this particular article, they talk about how soft skills are a top priority when you're looking to find talent. Now, Dan, can you explain really what soft skills are and why they're so important when you're looking for talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you're hiring talent into the supply chain, it's easy to segment an individual candidate's hard skills, which would be capabilities with tools, machine, the sort of day-to-day duties of the job. Can they drive that truck? Can they operate that machinery? Can they maintain this piece of equipment? From soft skills, which are typically equally important in these environments, which are attributes like teamwork, problem solving, and leadership. Because each day within a manufacturing context, a transportation context, is going to throw a different thing, a different challenge at your team. And those skills around how can that team work together? How can that team partner with leadership? And how can that team work with the other teams within your building or within your organization to overcome those challenges are incredibly important. And I would say increasingly important as supply chains get even more dynamic.
Absolutely. And so, how do you help a company find talents? Because I know that that's one of the core things that you guys do, and you do it really well.
Yeah, so we provide a talent acquisition solution called WorkStep Hire, which was built specifically for the supply chain context. And what that software does is it really automates that process of sourcing, screening, and placing frontline talent at scale as an alternative to traditional temp staffing or job board advertising. And so we've built this network of over 1 million domestic skilled supply chain workers. And then we help that network connect to direct hire opportunities with our end customers using software in between to match those workers to the right opportunity for them based on not only those hard skills we mentioned, right? Their actual skills, their job
Yeah.
experience, but also their more nuanced preferences, like what sort of a commute works within the rest of their life? What sort of benefits are they looking for? What sort of schedule matches their needs outside of work as parents or as caretakers? And sort of help the companies make a match on that 360 degrees of a person so they can have an employee that is more successful in their company and ultimately stays longer.
I love that because we just talked about how important mental health is. And when we go into a job as a potential talent looking for a position or vice versa, the organization looking for the talent, there's so many gaps and so many things that we either don't know about the person or about the organization, and you have to sort of get into the organization to figure out whether it's going to work for you, or you have to ask the right questions, or you have to really let them know what you're looking for out of an employer. And so this kind of takes that out of it. And so you kind of know as talent looking for a position as to whether this is the right place for you, and they're going to give you the flexibility on what you need to have that work life balance.
Yeah, I think you hit on a really important topic there, which is increased visibility and really transparency, which is how do you better align those expectations between talent and
Yeah.
employer on both sides going in? And I think sort of the antithesis of this is that sort of traditional temp staffing model where a worker might go to an agency who says they have a job for them, but they don't really want to tell them where it is or exactly what it is because they don't want to get cut out of the equation. And then on the employer side, it's, I go to my temp staffing agency, I say, send me talent, and I don't really know who I'm getting. So that's like
Right.
the opposite of a transparent system made with perfect information.
Yeah.
And so our point of view is how can we use technology to really structure these attributes on both sides and allow both employers and prospective employees to make better decisions with more complete information.
Yeah, the data is key for everybody involved, and I like that. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the talent shortage in supply chain and whether there is a talent shortage or not, just in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to talk about this case study that you did with Kroger, because Kroger was in fact doing a lot of their recruiting in house, and you were able, as WorkStep, to really talk to them about an outsourcing strategy that would work for them. And so it also helped with retention as well, which I think retention, when we're talking about hiring, we also need to talk about retention, because what we were talking about in that first example is that, you have to get into the company and work for the company for a little bit to see if it's the right fit for you in the traditional model. And that doesn't really work for everybody, because you're putting all that effort in to train them and things like that, and then they're leaving because of a variety of different reasons. Whereas this particular example talks about how they outsource to you and how they also increased retention. So walk us through this. How did you get them to switch from recruiting in house to outsourcing, and what was kind of the impact that you made to the company?
It's interesting, Sarah, because you use the word outsourcing a few times there. And
Yeah.
that's really not how we think of our partnership with
Okay.
companies, whether they be retailers or 3PLs or manufacturers. We want to provide a technology solution, a technology platform that allows those teams to make better fit hires more quickly by leveraging our solution to really give their team superpowers. So it's not outsourcing in the sense that, like, we're not a staffing agency who is
Right.
employing these workers and renting them to you. We provide you with access to a talent network and software that helps you make better hiring decisions more quickly with access to better matched talent.
Got
And
it.
really, for companies like Kroger or any organization that we partner with, that is the value we provide, which is how do we partner to understand your needs from a volume perspective, from a who is successful here, what skills do they need, sort of what are the attributes of this opportunity, and then bringing talent to those organizations that fit the bill of what they need to keep that supply chain running. And so it's really an accelerant to your in-house efforts more than it is sort of handing the problem of recruiting off to somebody else, which is typically a much less successful way of approaching the problem.
I'm glad that you corrected me on that. I do like the word outsourcing, but you're right. It's really about helping them manage internally, but providing the resources for them to be able to do that. Now, I want to just let the audience know, if you are somebody that is looking for work, or you have any questions, please put them in the comments, because we definitely want to take advantage of Dan's time here on Thoughts and Coffee. And then if you're an employer that has any questions about this as well, please put them in the comments too. And I think this particular case study, so what was kind of the ROI that they saw from taking this sort of new innovative approach to finding talent and hiring talent? Because I think before you came into the picture, they were having they were having a really hard time trying to find the talent.
Yeah, it's typically our ROI story, whether an organization is a customer of our talent acquisition solution, WorkStep Hire, our talent retention solution, WorkStep Retain, or both, comes back to a story of workforce retention. And so in the Kroger case study, the quote you showed said they measured retention in both groups, and they saw meaningfully better retention in the hires placed via WorkStep. And this retention ROI is super critical because across the supply chain, at least in North America, we've seen the cost of losing an employee has increased about 50% over the last 2 years. So if you thought the inflation print that I think was yesterday was bad, like you should look at the cost of losing a warehouse worker in the United States and how that's changing year over year.
So
And of
true.
course, it can be much higher. So we're seeing about an average of $15,000 per turnover event right now, much higher for more skilled roles. And so
Wow.
if you're operating a supply chain with thousands or tens of thousands of employees and you're turning over 50 to 80% of them each year, you could be bearing, literally hundreds of millions of dollars in turnover expense. And so if you're able to leverage technology to sort of intelligently address that turnover challenge and begin to ease back on that turnover at scale, 5%, 10%, 20% improvement, you're going to save tens of millions of dollars to your bottom line that really matter, especially as we discussed earlier, in this environment where people are looking for cost savings wherever they can find them.
Absolutely. And I just recorded an episode of Blended yesterday, and it's about the business asset and advantage of diversity and inclusion. And a lot of things came up around retention. A lot of things came up around hiring, diverse talent and taking a look at people holistically. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this, because there are multiple different dimensions of things that we need to think about when we're hiring, when we're retaining, when we're thinking about our people, because it's the people that really drive that business. And I'm glad that there's, a solution like yours that can really help both sides of the coin, right? And you're matching people together, which is very different from looking through resumes and trying to figure out who somebody is and whether they're right for the role based on education, degrees. How do you determine who that person is and whether they're a right fit for the role? So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we've only got about just over 3 minutes left, and we've got one more article to talk about. So guys, everybody out there in the audience, guys and girls, we've got another disruption potentially on the horizon that I want to bring to your attention, because the contracts are up on the West Coast ports. Now, this is happening July 1st. And so this is affecting 29 ports on the West Coast, and it's affecting 22,400 dock workers. Now, they're just about to go into negotiations to talk about work rules, automation, pay, and benefits. So, what I wanted to let you know was that some of the retailers are taking a look at this as a potential disruption to your supply chain. They're looking at ordering holiday products early to mitigate the risk from this potential labor disruption. And they're also looking at diverting the containers to the East Coast ports as well. I mean, looking at diverting the containers to the East Coast ports may or may not work for you. For the large retailers, they've been able to pre-buy space. For the small to medium-sized retailers, you're kind of looking at making those decisions on the fly. And so you might want to consider an East Coast port when you're looking at bringing in your product between now and July. So just wanted to let you know a little bit about that. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was the fact that under discussion is automation. So Dan, what are you hearing as far as like automation and, people, right? Are people still kind of nervous about automation, or are they actually embracing it?
Yeah, I think, Sarah, first of all, this article is really interesting because I think that what many companies are realizing is that these supply chain disruptions, specifically backed up ports that we saw last year and continue to see, can often be traced back to labor, right? If we're backed up at the ports because there's no trucks to pick them up, it could be because we don't have enough truckers, or it could be because we don't have enough warehouse workers on the other side to take that container delivery. And so labor is a very major part of this equation across every part of that supply chain. As it relates to automation, I think that this has been a very hot topic in the supply chain for the greater part of the last decade. For the most part, we're seeing that when rolled out responsibly, we're seeing a positive perception from labor in the sense of if automation can take some of the most physical and grueling parts of the supply chain or the most dangerous parts of the supply chain, and then return to workers potentially more stimulating or interesting roles in terms of working with machines and maintaining machines. Generally, we're seeing workforce sentiment stay high as automation is rolled out across the supply chain. And so I think there's this desire to look at it as like this, like labor versus machine. And it's not that simple. Like labor has been working with machines for the last century, and that will continue to be the case for the century to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of your insights. We are now at the 30-minute mark. Just want to thank everybody in the audience. Thanks for participating and joining us. Audrey will be back with me next week, so stay tuned for that for some more supply chain hot topics. And Dan, amazing work at WorkStep. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.